Well, good morning. Thank you all for joining us for our quarter two-ish, quarter three-ish DPAL meeting. We appreciate you guys taking the time to join us today. And we appreciate your patience as this is the first time we are holding this meeting as a virtual conference. And so with 35 of us on here, we appreciate your patience as we work through any technical issues that come along. With that said, just a few housekeeping. We ask that you please mute your phones. And then we will have time at the beginning where I'll ask you guys to do introductions where you can unmute it. And then at the end, we'll do a question and answer where you can either chat in your question or unmute yourself and ask the question. But also feel free as we are presenting to chat your question into the chat box. And we will either try to answer the question then if there's a good break in the presentation, or in between presenters, we will stop and kind of try to answer questions then. We will also have staff that are monitoring the chat box. So if there's some real quick win answers, we can do those in chat as well. And so to start with the introductions, I'm going to have the MDHI team introduce themselves. And then since there are several of us on there, I'm going to do just a running list of the agencies that I know should be on here or may be on here. And I'm just going to say, you know, is there anybody from agency so-and-so on here? Please unmute yourself and introduce yourselves. So we'll do it that way. And then with introductions, just your name and your position if you like, and then an interesting fact about yourself. And so we will get started. Well, my name is Kyla. I am the HMIS program manager. I'm here over at MDHI, and I see a lot of familiar names in the participant box, but there are some new ones. So happy to meet you guys all.
What's an interesting fact about you, Kyla?
Interesting fact about me is, I'm not adjusting really well to working from home. I still wish I was in the office. So I'm a rare occasion of, I really want to be in the office with people.
Well, I can go. My name's Matt Richard. I work at MDHI as a data analyst. I don't know if it's interesting, but I'm from Bloomington, Indiana, and I will share all that with you today.
My name is Brandon Anderson Gregson. I'm also a data analyst at MDHI, and I really like to bake.
My name is Jazz. I'm the HMIS Training and Application Specialist at MDHI. I guess my interesting fact is that all of you have probably spoken to me at some point.
And sorry, I was trying to talk before, but I was muted. I'm Stacia Wisnett. I'm the HMIS Partner Agency Specialist. Interesting fact, I stabbed myself in the head with scissors once. Is that interesting? Don't run with scissors, people.
Don't run with scissors.
My name is Midori. I am the One Home Program Manager. I am the new addition to the team. And I guess an interesting fact about me is that I once upon a time worked with chimpanzees.
Oh, great. So I am going to just start, and I'll just go down the list by the list of agencies. So if you can unmute yourself, and then at the end, if I missed anybody or any agencies, we will speak up and have you introduce yourselves there. So I'm going to start at the top of my list, which is Access Housing. Is there anybody on the call from Access Housing? Okay, moving right along. What about Almost Homes?
I see Kaylee Woods, but she's on mute. I think she's at Almost Home.
She's at Attention Homes.
Oh, Attention Homes.
Attention Homes. Go ahead, Kaylee.
Hi, I'm Kaylee. I'm from Attention Homes. I have 2 cats. That's kind of interesting, I think. Maybe, maybe not.
Great, welcome. Anybody from Aurora Housing Authority?
Yep, I am Laura Coddington with Aurora Housing Authority. Interesting fact, my partner and I have combined 6 dogs and 1 cat, and one of them is a 3-legged, blind, Chinese crested with 9 teeth.
Oh.
Okay, what about Aurora Mental Health?
EJ Becker, and I'm a twin.
Great, welcome. How about Bayard?
Sue Gilman. I'm the housing program manager, and I have a cat and a dog, and the cat likes to go on walks when I walk the dog, so the cat will walk.
Great, welcome. Boulder County Housing and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Gwen Mossman. I'm a program specialist, and let's see. I have become obsessed with the action around my hummingbird feeder while I've been at home during this quarantine.
You're welcome. Boulder Shelter for the Homeless.
Hi, this is Chad Moulter. I'm the Chief Program Officer at the Boulder Shelter, and I like to play loud rock music in my free time.
Bergwin?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Cuddy, and I'm the program director of our supportive services at our affordable housing projects. And I was a Whitewater River guide in Pennsylvania.
And how about Catholic Charities?
Hey, Kyla, I think Corinne said she wouldn't be able to make it today because of the shelter opening.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. Cold Weather Care?
Hi, this is Carrie Hartzyker from Cold Weather Care, the case manager. Interesting fact, I like to crochet.
Great, welcome. And Colorado Coalition for the Homeless.
I'm Kenya Graves, and I'm the application specialist at CCH. And my interesting fact is I'm a 4th generation native of Colorado.
Great, welcome. Colorado Health Network? Nope, okay. HMIS? No, Jody. Community Housing Partners? Community Reach Center? Denver Health and Hospital? Denver Human Services?
Hi, this is Patrice Hawkins. I'm with Denver Human Services, and I'm the Deputy Director for our Community Outreach and Resource Engagement team. Fun fact, I used to row in college, and I wanted to try and do that again these days, but rowing machines are apparently on back order, like toilet paper and hand wipes, so you can't get one for like 9 weeks. So good to see everyone.
Denver Rescue Mission? And I know some of our, as you guys may know, some of our larger shelters are in the middle of doing some transitioning. So unfortunately that was this week, so we may not have some representation from them. Division of Housing. Okay. Family Homestead? Family Promise of Greater Denver.
Hi, I'm Mel Davis Campbell. I'm our Director of Programs, and I went to school for musical theater, and I'm a big musical theater nerd.
Family tree.
Hey, this is Laura Simpkins from Family Tree. I'm a data analyst. And an interesting fact about me is that I am also a doula. And I'm guessing I'm one of the only people in the world who has both of those titles. I don't think there are a lot of people who are really interested in analyzing data and also interested in being present for childbirth.
Growing home. Housing Aurora Partnership. Jefferson Center for Mental Health.
Hey, this is Emily Adams from the Jefferson Center for Mental Health. Interesting fact about me, I have a cat named Donut.
Jewish Family Services.
Hi, this is Shelley Tate. I'm with Jewish Family Services. An interesting, maybe some people think this is interesting. My first real office job that I had when I was 18 was working at the U.S. Mint. Did you hear me?
Yeah, we heard you. Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, you were cutting out at first, but you came through at the end. Mental health partners. I thought I seen Jean on earlier, but maybe we lost her. Mercy Housing.
Yes, this is Manley Daniel, Healthcare Coordinator Specialist, and I worked in refugee camps for 10 years.
Welcome. Mile High Ministries. Mile High United Way. St. Francis Center. Salvation Army of Denver.
This is Kristen Beloyet, and I am the Denver Metro Social Services Director. Fun fact is I used to be an alpaca wrangler.
Wow.
Second Chance Center.
Hi, I'm Sherry. I'm a housing coordinator, the Second Chance Center. I don't have no cats and no dogs.
Senior Support Services.
Hello, this is Nanai with Senior Support Services, Director of Case Management here. And I'm a capoeirista. Capoeira is a Brazilian martial art.
Anybody from South Metro Housing Option? The Dolores Project? The Empowerment Program?
Hi, this is Lynn. I'm the Housing Director at Empowerment. And I'm a folk dancer, and usually when we folk dance once a week, maybe in real world. In COVID, we're able to folk dance all week long, almost all day long. Usually on the weekends, I'm folk dancing with 500 people from 51 countries on 6 continents. So it's an interesting difference of folk dancing, even though I can't hold anyone's hand.
The Mental Health Centers of Denver. Here you are, Ann.
Let's see. I don't know if I can get my video working. Ann Selling. I just came back from a 10-day camping trip in southern Colorado, and it was awesome.
Okay. Urban Peak. I see Robin is on, but Robin, you may be having mic issues. Volunteers of America, and I know there's a few of you on there, so if you want to just take turns introducing yourselves.
This is Ian Kyle, the QA manager at Volunteers of America. Fun fact, my quarantine hobby has been naming and giving lurid backstories to the about 24 feral cats that live in my neighbor's abandoned boat.
Hi, this is Lauren. Oh, this is what happens when we got like 8 VOA people.
Yep, my name is Joe, and I'm the data specialist for Volunteers of America Veteran and Supportive Services Division. And a fun fact about me is I also have 3 cats, and I just recently moved to Washington from Colorado with all 3 cats in the car.
That sounds like a fun trip, Will, with cats, 3 cats. Lauren, this is Lauren, VOA. I'm with Bannock Youth and Family. I don't know if it's a fun fact, but I am deathly afraid of ice skating. I just think that it is a scary thing in the world.
Okay, and Warren Village. And then I know I did miss one organization. I apologize at the very top. Adams County Human Services. Okay, anybody else that I missed?
Hi, this is Dorothy from Colorado Village Collaborative. I'm a program manager there. And an interesting fact about me is I'm left-handed, and so are all 3 of my sons.
Welcome, Dorothy.
I'm Jamie Kaler-Blanchard. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Empowerment Programs with the Lutheran Family Services, the Refugee and Asylee Program. And a fun fact about me is I grew up on a farm, and we had goats. So not alpacas, not quite that interesting, but still.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name, please?
Sure, Jamie Kaler-Blanchard with Lutheran Family Services.
Okay, thanks.
I'm Jada Windrum. I'm with the Mental Health Center of Denver. I'm a project coordinator, and I was born and raised in Boulder, Colorado.
Great. Anybody else that we didn't get introductions for? Perfect. So we're going to jump right in. I'm just going to quickly go over the agenda topic, and then we'll start going into the meat of the discussion. Like I mentioned previously, feel free to chat any questions that you have as each presenter is presenting, and we'll leave time in between each presenter to discuss those questions. And then at the very end, we'll have an open Q&A as well. As we've stated in previous DPAL meetings, really the focus of this is if you have like specific questions regarding the HMIS system. But a change that we did implement this quarter that we hadn't before is we have asked a member, Midori, who introduced herself at the beginning of the One Home team, to be present as well, because we know that you guys have some One Home questions as well. We do, like I said, want to focus this on the HMIS system and how it's operating, but we will have Midori available to answer some questions at the end. So Matt, can you skip to the agenda, please? Thank you. So just real quick, we did the introductions. Next is we're gonna go through some HMIS updates and reminders. Then monitoring season is here. So Stasia's gonna review that. We'll have some training updates. Brenda's gonna walk through the PIT and the PIT dashboard, and then we'll have some wrap up and Q&A. So with no further ado, I will pass it over to Matt.
Deal. Thanks, Kyla. So in terms of what I'm going to talk to you all about, it's primarily about data standards and system functionality updates, and then some, just some best practice reminders for HMIS use. So this section's really, Matt talks at you all for a while about HMIS data. So I also linked in the bottom of this slide, which we're going to be sending out the slides and a recording of today's meeting, to an article that our vendor BitFocus put out that has some new feature updates. Some of them are more for system administrators on the back end. Some of them are applicable for you all to know, and they cover topics we're going to talk about in just a moment. So I'll launch right in here. The good news is that in terms of federal data standard updates and new requirements, there aren't any. There are no new data standard collection requirements that are required by HUD next fiscal year starting October 1st. ESG/CD is a thing that's coming, and I think that's on many of our radars. But that's like more funding for certain project types. It's not new requirements for data collection. So there are, however, a few fields that the statewide HMIS leads are considering adding to different entry screens, and those are listed here on the screen. And the intent isn't to create more busy work or an undue burden on any of you or your staff. It's to add a minimal amount of fields that we feel add value to our ability to better understand the population that we serve, and to help better inform legislation and policy at the state and local levels. So that's kind of the intent behind these value adds that we're going to talk about. The first one is just, have you ever experienced homelessness before? We're getting a lot of questions from different funders and from different people in the community about, are we seeing an uptick in clients who are experiencing homelessness because of COVID? So it's basically getting at, is this the first time you've ever experienced homelessness? But because we want to apply this to multiple project types, and yes, Jody, for sure. The last thing I'll talk about on this slide, paperwork's going to be updated to reflect these new options once they're finalized. We're close. But those will be updated and posted no later than September 16th. So you all have plenty of time, if you use the intake forms, to download the new versions and to have that ready. So yeah, that's a good question. But again, the first question is really to help us understand, like, we can look at new client profiles being added to the system, but just because a person's getting a new profile doesn't mean that they're experiencing homelessness for the first time. It means that we're aware of them in HMIS for the first time. So that's kind of, that would live around the prior living situation questions in terms of the workflow for the entry screen. The next question is kind of a return to an older question that we all used to, if you've been in this field for a while. I think that this used to be either an optional requirement or it was on intake paperwork a few years ago. But this question is asking clients, would you like to share the reasons you feel that have contributed to your homelessness? And if they respond yes, there's a list of options that would display that they could self-report, and you could find the appropriate option to toggle in. We wanted to build in the first part, like, would you like to share? Because we don't want to force clients to talk about traumatic things that they're not willing to. I think a lot of the questions in general are invasive and they're requirements from HUD, so we have to do them a lot of the times. But this question, we feel, gives them the opportunity to have a voice and contribute those reasons that we can be looking at. And all of these fields, I should say too, are being considered across the state, right? So that would mean we could do a statewide analysis on these new fields. And then if they said yes, so they want to share, that list of options will display the same way that you toggle on the different income sources or non-cash benefits that clients might have. That's how this would work too. And then there's one other field that's still being discussed. The first two, we're more solid on. This one, we're still discussing, but it would be for permanent housing projects only. And it would be when a housing move-in date got completed, the zip code of where the client was housed would be a field that pops up. And that further helps us identify where clients in these housing programs, many of which have federal funding associated with them, where those projects are able to house folks, which can be super informative and helpful in the analysis that we're hoping to do. So that's it. that we're trying to keep them minimal. Again, we don't want to add things just to add things. We want to have outputs for these inputs. So we want to be very intentional with it. But, you know, if you have questions or concerns about anything, certainly please reach out to us. We're happy to talk with you. I know for like high volume shelters, trying to collect all those reasons people have that you know, that have contributed to their homelessness might be tricky in a high volume shelter like that. But I think we might be able to get creative with you and figure out what makes the most sense. So, and there's obviously options for like client refused on these things as well too, right? So I'm going to keep trucking. That's really it for data standard updates and changes you can expect, because everything's so up in the air in general, right? Like we're not trying to make things more crazy for anybody. So I'm going to move on to some new functionality updates. Lynn, I think the field's going to pop up, but I think there's always the element that like if the client is, you know, refuses to provide that information or something, I think that that's part of what we're still talking about for that field, Lynn. It's a good question. And when we do finalize all this, it will be communicated to everyone on this call. So you have that information for sure. In terms of new functionality, this one is exciting. We've been waiting for this one basically since we launched in Clarity. It's when, if you use attendance-based services, whether you're using scan cards or whether you are using the manual attendance, there is now an icon and a pop-up depending on the option that you use, right? So this is where, like, if you're scanning a lot of people for like getting a bed night service or a check-in service at your facility, if they have a public alert associated with their client profile, if you're doing scanning, it's going to pop up in the moment, this little box that you see here on the screen. And you can click view public alert and it'll open that up in a new tab so you can see what that alert is. So this is super important for our shelter providers who, you know, sometimes people have to be, there are security issues that have happened or what have you, right? And they create these alerts to let their staff know and let other agencies know what's going on. So this is a way to make sure that people who, you know, for whatever reason are not supposed to be at that facility, or maybe that this could be used positively too, right? Like maybe there's a public alert about a client who might have a housing opportunity. As you're scanning those clients in, if they have an alert, you get a pop-up. That's the take-home message. If you're doing manual attendance, which I know some of you on the call do, you're gonna see this icon that's kind of right here in the center of the screen. And that lets you know that they have an alert, but the manual attendance does not have a pop-up at this time. You just kind of have to keep your eyes out for that icon. I also circled the kind of trash can icon here, because if you're doing scanning and someone has an alert and you read that alert and it doesn't make sense for them to actually have been like admitted to the facility, you can delete that service right out of the interface real quick. So if there are questions or if you want to enable this functionality, if you use attendance-based services, please send us a ticket so we can work with you on that. We need to be updating. This is a new setting for those services. So if you want it, we need to turn it on for you. But we're super happy it's here. It's in the training site right now. We're doing testing on it, and we will, it will be implemented. I can't remember the specific date, Kyla, but I know it's in about the middle of the month, right?
I think it's August 17th.
Okay. So yeah, we've been working with the vendor and doing testing on this to make sure it's working the way that we think and that we expect. So August 17th should be when it goes into the live site. But if you want it, we have to turn it on for you. So just let us know what we can do to help support that. I think it is great news too, Kristen. Sorry, I'm kind of checking the chat on the side as I go through. I'll keep on going. There's also a new option for service delivery types, right? There was long-term, there's attendance-based. And one of the disadvantages with long-term services was that you had to put a start and an end date, when in many instances, it was the same date, right? So it was duplicative. There's now a new option for services where it's just called a single event service, and there's only one date associated with it. So we can pivot to this for you if you're interested in removing a duplicative field, but it does, unfortunately, like we can't edit the old delivery type to be this new one. We'd have to create a new service, but it's super doable. You could still do your reporting and aggregate the old ones and the new ones. If you're interested in it, we just wanted to put it on your radar that it's one less field you'd have to worry about for tracking services if you do. So Moving right along, there's also some new exciting functionality for coordinated entry. And we haven't turned it on just yet, but I think we're hoping to very soon. And this is where if your client is enrolled in our One Home Coordinated Entry project, if the client is enrolled in your program, they exit to a housed destination, and there's a pretty, there's a definition of what that is. Or if the client's in a permanent housing program and gets a housing move-in date, you get this pop-up screen that you see on the right-hand side of the slide that lets you know that the action that you're doing is about to remove the client from the coordinated entry program. They're going to be exited. And it's going to capture the exit destination appropriately for them in that One Home program. I know not everyone on the call is connected to One Home, but since this can happen once we turn this on for any clients that are enrolled in One Home, it's just a pop-up we wanted to make you aware of. So if there are any questions about it, really the intent is let's keep the people who are still in need of housing enrolled in coordinated entry programs, right? It's a way to not have people on the queue or enrolled in One Home, specifically enrolled in One Home. We'd still need to remove them from the queue later, but it's just a way to keep that active list targeted to those folks who are still in need of housing. So I hope that makes sense. We're excited that it's here. We think it keeps things a little more streamlined and efficient for coordinated entry workflows. But if there are any questions or concerns, again, it's going to be a repeated theme throughout this. Just send us a ticket. Let us know how we can help support. And there's also one other minor change for, in the bottom hand of a client's profile, bottom right-hand side of the screen, it has the icons for the client's assigned staff members. With a new feature update, when you hover over those icons, or when you click on them, excuse me, you're going to be able to see their contact information in there. So because that's a function now, if you want that to be happening, just make sure that your contact information's in your account profile in Clarity. If you don't want that to happen, just make sure that you don't have your contact information in your account in Clarity. But it's another way to quickly reach out to other staff members in the community that are working with the clients that you're working with or with the clients that you're trying to find. And I also wanted to remind everybody that you can also message any user that you see in Clarity directly and securely right within Clarity, right? You can send a message without sending an encrypted email. It's a great feature that I think is underutilized, but we have seen it work to find clients and to let them know about housing opportunities. So that's one little plug on that one. And I think this might be my last slide, and then I'll pass it along to my colleagues. But just a quick few reminders, we're not seeing a lot of folks. It's not a data requirement at this time to capture last permanent addresses or addresses where clients are being housed. We've only had 22 last permanent addresses entered through the end of June for our whole COC. And we are hoping to try to understand better where folks are coming from without making those those fields required in a program template. That has been floated before. We don't want to do that, but we just don't have any information that's being entered on that information. So I understand it's not going to happen for everybody. But if we could just all try to remember that those tabs are there, specifically the contact tab, which has places for you to put contact information for clients. It's just so beneficial to be able to contact clients that are okay with that information. So my plug on the location of contact. Sorry, Laura, what were you going to say?
I just wanted to know if I could ask you a question now or if you want me to wait.
You can ask me now.
So the trouble that I've been having with the address field when I'm trying to put people's contact information in, so it changed to that map, right? And you have to put in the real, and it won't accept half the addresses I put in. It doesn't show up. It says it's not, it doesn't say it's a valid address, but the Google Maps interface acts as if it's not a valid address. Mm-hmm. So then I don't, I get out of the map and I try to manually type it into the address number field too, but it forces me back to the map. It gives you that red bar, information is missing.
Gotcha. Okay, maybe we could do a quick tutorial video that we disseminate on how to do that without having that happen. I think that there are fields that are required, but you can skip over or put NA values in them too. That can be an action item for us to just do a quick little video tutorial and make sure everyone understands it. And you're always welcome to send us a ticket to set up a time to review stuff like that too. So we'll do that resource video and post it on our Zendesk. But thanks for flagging that for me, Laura. I didn't realize that was happening. I think my last little bitty on that section was, again, the contact information for clients. if they're enrolled in coordinated entry and they don't have contact information, you see a nice little warning bar on their client profile. But again, that's just super important information to help connect clients to resources, or, for whatever reason we need to get a hold of them. So that's the benefit of a community-wide database that has that information available for folks. The last two are just quick reminders that non-cash benefits are not the place to track if a client is receiving a housing voucher. That's the options for non-cash benefits are what they are. There is an option called other that lets you specify in a text field what that non-cash benefit is if it's not one of the buckets that's listed. But we've confirmed with AAQs with HUD that housing vouchers are not intended to be tracked as non-cash benefits and are not non-cash benefits per the federal definition. So just a real quick heads up on that. And then the last one is that housing move-in dates cannot be dated before project start dates, or it really scrambles our system performance measures, which we report to HUD. So I know that people can transfer from different housing programs, and they might've been housed in the first program, and it's just they're gonna get the other agencies in their location, or it makes sense to transfer them for whatever reason. But when that happens, just make the housing move-in date one-to-one with their project start date. Don't use the date that they were actually housed. It's a HUD thing. It's a system performance measure thing. We're going to monitor it moving forward. So if you have housing move-in dates that are dated before your project start date, you'll probably hear from us about it. But I just want to give you a heads up about it today on the call. So I hope all of what I said makes sense. But I think that concludes all of my diatribes for now. Kyla, I saw you come up mute.
Yeah, so there was just a comment from Lynn in the chat box about if we can demonstrate how to do a blast email inside the system if we need it. So Lynn, if there's time at the end as a QA, we can try to do a demo. If not, we can follow up with resources on that as well. And then it looks like Lynn had her hand up, but I'm assuming, Lynn, that you got all your answers answered in the chat box.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, so hi everybody, thanks for coming, it's Stacia. So just a quick update on the HMIS site reviews this year. They're gonna be quite different from last year, solely due to COVID, and we realize how busy everybody is, including ourselves. So a few things will be different this year. So of course, all virtual for everyone. And we're only going to be meeting with you if you receive federal funding. And the checklist will not be that monster from last year that freaked everybody out, including myself. It's going to be much leaner and pretty scaled back from last year. And also just wanted to point out, if you did receive a notification letter about the site review from me and you have not signed up for a meeting with me, please do, because the times are running out, the slots are running out. That's pretty much all I have. I've met with about, I think, 10 agencies so far. The reviews have been very short and very good. So anybody have a comment about the reviews that I've done already?
To see in VOA, say it was great. Yeah, it was fantastic to see the engagement from the HMIS lead team. It was just really a collaborative look at our processes and talking about the things that we could do to make their lives easier and things that could be done on their end to make our lives easier. So yeah, it was just a joy to be a part of.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, I enjoyed meeting with you guys. You guys cracked me up.
This is Lynn Thayer, and Stacia is very gentle and easy and helpful, so don't be afraid.
I don't think anyone is afraid after last year, the people I met with last year. Thanks, Lynn, I appreciate that. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Shelley Tate with Jewish Family Service. I am signed up, I believe, next week or the following week. Now, are you gonna send a link and we'll connect that way?
Oh, I thought I did. Sorry about that. If I did not, I definitely will. Sorry about that, Shelley.
Okay, I'll double check too. I mean, we're just like everyone, we're real.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely check on that. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
All right, so let's talk about training. So before I kind of go into some of the things that happen, I just want to acknowledge that I understand that training is something that's difficult to get into. There are a lot of end users, and there's one of me. I am doing my best by adding as many training classes as I can. We're also, handling all the training for the shelters and then the transition. So I am training as frequently as I can. That said, I have made a few changes to Zendesk. I redesigned it so that hopefully now it just looks a little bit cleaner and a little bit easier. If you look here in the top right-hand corner where it says CO3, CO 503 Metro Denver Training, when you go to the training link, there's just one of these links for every COC that we have. So you just go to that link and everything is contained in there for 101, 201, and 301. So that is like the intro, which is the 101, the videos and the quiz, the 201, which is now being held virtually, which is the standard HMIS training, and then 301 training, which is for coordinated entry. If your agency has access to HMIS just for your own programs, and you have access for coordinated entry, your end users are required to have 201 and 301. So just make sure that your end users understand that they are going to have have to be trained twice. So all of our training is being conducted virtually. To assist in that training, we do require that your computer has audio and a webcam. This is so that it is going to be a very interactive training. It's kind of questions back and forth, and they have a section that they are going to be in the training site and going through. And so with the classes, it's just a requirement now. So webcam with audio. We do have it set up so that if they have a computer that doesn't have a webcam and audio, they can join on the computer as well as join on a smartphone, so that will give them the audio and webcam, and then they'll have the computer functionality. We are having training classes more frequently, but the training class sizes are considerably smaller. That is because we're doing it in this virtual way. We've changed the way that training is happening. I do have to have smaller class sizes in order to be able to train people effectively. I am seeing that it is a little bit better for retention and that people are understanding the concepts better now. So that's a positive, I guess. The classes do fill up quickly. Classes for the upcoming month will be added to Zendesk on the 15th of the previous month. So for example, I will be adding training classes for September as of the 15th of August. Classes are first come, first serve, and they do fill up very quickly. We are trying to put as many trainings in as much as we possibly can. So the wait list has been activated for all training classes as well. People are able to add themselves to the wait list. If I get a cancellation from someone, whoever was first on the wait list is the one that will automatically get an email from Eventbrite that they have been given a ticket. There is, I think it's a 2-day turnaround that they have to answer in order to get that ticket, or it will go to the next person. And the biggest thing is that because we have class sizes that are so small, and because I know there are a lot of people that need to be trained, end users absolutely have to email the help desk if there's going to be a cancellation. That is the only way for me to have time to offer this ticket to someone else. End users that register for classes and they don't show up are going to be, they're going to be waitlisted going forward. So they will not be able to register for another class. They're just going to be waitlisted automatically, because we just have to be able to have those classes full and have, I want to be able to offer it to someone else if they're not going to be able to come. That's all I have to say.
All right, I am going to be taking you guys through the PIT dashboards. Ooh, nope. In a second, maybe. Is it opening up on your side,
Yeah, I
Jazz?
opened a new window, so.
Okay.
Let me do this. There we go. All right. Can you see it now?
I can see it. I cannot scroll though. Ooh, there we go. All right, so as you guys know, this year we did a little less information on the actual county handouts that were those PDFs, and instead put more of the details into our interactive dashboard. So this first page is really just an overview and some notes that I think are really good to read over. But then the rest of the dashboard is broken out into 3 parts, the location, population, and custom, where location is primarily on like sheltered, unsheltered, population is on those population characteristics, and then custom is really just kind of whatever you want to look at. The main things to point out, once it loads, top left, county breakdowns. Selecting any of these will automatically change what you're looking at, giving you the totals up here, but then also changing the total numbers that you're looking at the bottom. It defaults to breaking out by emergency shelter, transitional, safe havens, and unsheltered, but then you can also, if you just want to look at the total details or sheltered versus unsheltered, those are available as well. And then the demographic breakdowns and the age breakdowns also shift with whatever parameters you've selected above. Then for the population breakdowns, this is the page that really mimics the old county one-pagers. All of the options that were available before are now available in the drop-down, so you can select specifically which one you want, and they're all broken down by the household size. Again, you can select whatever county you were in or city of Aurora as well. In addition, this year there is the individual versus household breakdowns. This filters based on those specific household IDs, so you get the total families for your households with children, and then your individuals still for the other groups. The main thing to point out here is for security concerns, we decided to limit this to if any of the categories have fewer than 5 people, they will not show up on this chart at all. So if you're looking at the totals for your county and the totals don't seem to be adding up to the exact numbers before, it's most likely that one of these sections has maybe 2 or 3 people that we didn't want to get to that level of granularity to protect their privacy. Again, down at the bottom, we have the demographic breakdowns as well as age. And this also filters based on what county you're in, as well as what subpopulation you select. So if it's veterans, you're only going to be looking at the veteran race breakdown. We really wanted to, this year, put this in a racial equity lens. So the race breakdowns are looking at the comparison of the homeless population to the actual general population for whatever county or the total population that you're looking at. So as you go through, the white bar with the blue line, that is the homeless population, whereas the green bar is the general population. And then you can see how much larger or smaller the overrepresentation is or underrepresentation is compared to the general population, which in many of these cases, like Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, Black and African American is significantly higher than the general populations, which we thought was really important to kind of call out and make sure everybody was aware of. And then last but not least is the custom breakdowns. This kind of allows you to do any cross sections that you are interested in seeing. All of the options from the previous pages are available. So you can do breakdowns by gender and substance use. And all of the options are available on each side. So you can do any cross section that you want. And again, you can do it based on individuals or households. That pretty much sums that up. And I guess now we'll go into, if you guys have any questions about the dashboards or anything else, the floor is yours.
And then just to highlight, right above on the website, right above this interactive dashboard are the normal county reports that you guys are used to seeing last year. What is missing is the lengthy point in time report, that, kind of 25-page report that we produced last year. We are taking a look and redoing the format of that, and we're going to be producing what we're calling a state of homelessness report that looks at Pitt and other data points for homelessness in our communities. And so that should be out sometime in the next month or so. So that's just the only difference between the interactive dashboard is that lengthy kind of point in time report, which we're going to repurpose. But the county one-pagers are still there.
And one other thing I forgot to call out for the population breakdowns, when you're looking at households, the demographic numbers might get a little weird. This is in situations where if you have a household that has, one white parent and one black parent, they're going to show up twice on these graphs as a household in each. So your household totals might get skewed versus what is said in the top. Just to check that for that. If you're looking at demographics for like any kind of analysis, I'd really recommend doing the individuals for the breakdown.
Well, great, thank you, Bryn. If there's any other questions on Pitt that come up, or if there's a need for any other kind of more granular data for your community, please submit a ticket to the HMIS help desk, and we can work with getting you that data. And I believe I am next. If we can get the slides to advance somehow. There we go. Thank you. And I just realized that I meant to set up a Zoom poll and I didn't. So I am going to have you guys do this via chat. So we just wanted to check in with you guys on a couple things. As mentioned, this is the first, we usually, and the preferred method is to meet with you guys in person. Given the pandemic and that Mile High United Way has really pretty much closed down the conference rooms, probably for the remainder of the year. It looks like we'll be this virtual format moving forward, at least for a while. So I wanted to check in with you guys on how this format worked. If you prefer to gather together as a Zoom, or if you would prefer that we kind of put updates in a newsletter, or if you would like both. So if you can kind of chat two things, so before you start chatting in the box, the meeting format, if you like this virtual format, if you would prefer an email or newsletter format, and then if the frequency is enough. So like right now we have these quarterly. Is quarterly enough? Do you think we need to be having them every 2 months or twice a year? So if you can just put in the chat two things, the meeting preference for meeting format and the frequency of the meetings. And then we will gather all that feedback and use it to determine how we are going to do the meetings moving forward. Also, just a quick update from the Division of Housing. They wanted us to let you know that they will be sending out a survey in the next few weeks they are trying to get a gauge on the winter shelter capacity and the reduction or the changes that are due to COVID. And so they will be sending out a survey to reach out to you guys if you do operate emergency shelter or transitional housing. It'll probably be similar to what you guys do for us for the HIC every year. It'll just be, can you tell us what beds you plan to have available as of 10/1 for the winter season? So just to look for that coming out from the Division of Housing, and if you could please do your best to turn that around so that they have the information that they need to do their planning. And then just any kind of future agenda topics that you guys think would be helpful. We try to cover at these DPAL meetings any updates that will come into HMIS and any kind of new or breaking news. We also would like, unfortunately it's a little hard with virtual, but we'd like to make these a little bit more interactive. So if you could just chat in any future agenda items that you would like us to cover, or any topics or anything else that you'd like us to do a deeper dive on, that would be great. And with that, I think before we open the floor to question and answer, because it looks like we do have some time, Matt said he'd be willing to show you guys the location feature real quick and also tackle the email. So I may pass this over to Matt to do a real quick demo on those two topics, and then we will transition to an open Q&A.
Yeah, for sure. And we can still send out a quick resource or post it to our help desk so that you can reference it later without having to come back to this, hour-long video to find that guidance. I'm wondering, Jazz, I think I might just, if you stop sharing your screen, I'll start sharing my screen here. Or maybe I can already, nope. I think you have to, there we go, perfect. So allow me to share my screen real quick. And I want to do, probably not the whole screen, this one. So we should be seeing a dummy client in the training site here. This is Fireside Vanilla Spice, which is actually starring my colleague Bren in a bow tie. So for location, Laura, I'm gonna go through this, and then if you can let me know if I'm not covering the pain point that you were noticing. And you can allow this to know where your location is. Like your browser will ask you if you're gonna give Clarity permission to know that. And if you do, you can use this like geotagging functionality, this little triangle arrow that's kind of pointed to the right. That will, it's supposed to find your location and pop that in as an option, which is handy for outreach workers who might be out in the field. Instead of having to try to like figure out where the cross streets are, you can just geotag yourself where that contact is happening. But in general, if you're just trying to put in a last permanent address or something like that, you click the plus button. And then you come in here and you specify the address type, right? So we have both last permanent residence and housing secured by project as options. So last permanent residence, I think you have to give it a name. And if you hit save, it'll underline the things that are required. See, it's not gonna let me do it until I give it a name and I have a location date. So I can say, I'm just gonna call this last permanent, or you can call it that, whatever makes sense to describe it. And then you could add a location here. Oh, is this what you were talking about, Laura? This is new for me. I did not, this was not a, so again, you could do current location, or I'll do 711 Park Avenue West, Denver, Colorado. And maybe this is gonna get to the heart of what you were saying, but that's the address. It found it for me. I'm gonna click add. It has the map. I'm gonna date it. Let's say that I collected this information August 1st. I'll do it then. It's an active location. By default, I think we're gonna be putting in active locations. You can mark it private if it, for whatever reason, isn't appropriate for other people to know this. You can put a note in there about it. And let me see if I hit save, if it gives me any grief. So it went through for me, Laura, so I'm not sure what the problem is.
Yeah, I mean, some of the addresses, but I'd say in my case, it's like half.
Okay.
It just won't find. Can you do me a favor? Can you try putting a unit number after 711 Park Avenue West? Because that's when I get the most grief from the system if I try to put a unit number in, and it just won't take it. But then, like, if I save it without the unit number and somebody tried to mail them something, it wouldn't go through. So then,
right.
Sort of, what's the point?
Did you put it, so I don't know that I even put commas. I think this did this for me. Like I put 711 Park Avenue West. I did Suite 320, which I think is our address. I don't know. We don't have an office really anymore. So I'll hit add. And it still went through okay. So I'm wondering, like, maybe there's some stuff happening. If you send us tickets on it, I don't want that to be happening to you. So we can contact the vendor if we need to.
Okay.
But it shouldn't be happening. That should be how you do it. It's pretty minimal. I didn't realize that that new map thing was baked into the functionality of this. So I'm glad we're doing this today on this call. But that seems to be the few moving pieces associated with it. So any quirks that pop up, just let us know. Hopefully that was straightforward. And then contact tabs, right? That's super easy to do too, right? Add a contact, specify the contact type. It'll tell you again, if you hit save, what's required, and it's really just the contact type and the contact date. But you'd want to put contact information in there. Otherwise you're just saving nothing. So,
if you have that issue, yeah, send it over to the help desk. And when you do, if you guys can just give me kind of the steps that you took, and then like the client ID and like the address that we're going to be using, just so that when we kind of send this to the vendor, I need to be able to reproduce the problem for them to see as well.
Cool. And the other question we were going to review, sending messages, is that right?
Well, real quick, Matt, the question in the chat is, if you put in zip code only, does it autofill in the city and the state?
That's a good question. I don't think so. Let me try to add another one. So let's just say this is a home address. I'm going to call this home because I'm not a clever person. I'm going to add a location. So if we just put a zip, if we're just trying to put a zip code, that was the question. So like,
yeah, just a zip code.
05. It looks like it finds the zip code, finds the city, finds the state, lets you add it. And I think it's going to make me specify a date. But other than that, everything should go through just fine.
Matt, can I ask a question? This is Shelley Tate.
Of course.
So one, I think I'm missing, what does the name reflect? On the ones that I have done, I think I put in the client name. I don't know, I guess I'm not understanding what that's supposed to reflect.
And it's not a super big deal, Shelley. It's just when you look at the location tab, they're going to have, actually it doesn't even have a name associated with it on here. It's just like a way for you to know which address it is for the client. So like you can like, I think it's address, this is the address type, so it's not the name. So it's really just a way to differentiate like what the address is about, above and beyond. It's a home address, it's a last permanent address. Like you could call it like Stout Street if their last permanent address was on Stout Street. It's really up to you. Our main thing is just to get like the city, and like the zip code gives you the city and the state. Like that's enough for our purposes. But if you're trying to do this in a way that people can, you know, it's probably more contact information is the stuff that's more used. But I think my long-winded answer is it can be whatever makes sense to you, and we can try to help you standardize.
You can also use, for example, if you're putting in like someone's parents' address, like maybe they can get mail there, but they can't actually live there. And you can put like the parent's name and then indicate that it's their parents' address there.
Right.
Oh, okay. So now I will have to say I have not been doing this very often because it's a little time consuming, and just like all the other age, you know, everybody's work has increased like 200%. Is there a way to just maybe get rid of the little map thing for a while? I'd hate to, you know, screw up any system or anything, but.
Yeah, I think that new functionality is baked into it. Like you have to do something with it, but you can just put this, like for our purposes, it's really like the zip or the city and the state gives us what we're trying to do the analysis on. But I think you do have to, unfortunately, you know, give it a name, you know, again, home, add a location, and then type in the zip code. It's going to find it for you, and you should be able to click add. But I think this is part of the functionality now, and we could take it back to the vendor, but I'm sure that would be a feature enhancement request.
And we can just put in the zip and city, correct? That's what you
Yeah,
said?
so if you did Denver, Colorado, right? That's enough. And it really does help us know, like, you know, I think a lot of times we hear anecdotally from, you know, whoever that people are moving here and experiencing homelessness. And with the data that we've collected during point in time or in other analyses, like even historical data that is entered in HMIS, it's not painting that picture for us. It's that most of these folks that we're serving were last permanently housed somewhere in Colorado. So like the more that we can increase this sample size to help not even push back on narratives, but just inform them better with the data that we have, I think that's our ask for everybody. So totally empathize with the increased craziness across the board. You know, if a client's willing to give us that information, it's all voluntary. It's on our paperwork already. The last page of our intake paperwork has last permanent or has address fields. So, you know, we understand, we empathize. We're just putting out a call for if it's possible to do this, we'd super appreciate it. Because we want to use the dedicated fields for this information and not build in new required fields on you on templates. You know, we just need more than 22 in 6 months. So.
Yeah, and just to echo that with Matt, I mean, we understand your guys' workflow is crazy, especially, I mean, even pre-pandemic. So even getting like zip and you know, county or, you know, city and county, like the any kind of information you can give us, but if it, you know, takes too long to get the whole address, like Matt said, if you can just put the zip in, I think that it will give us enough information to be able to tell the story that we're getting a lot of questions from our funders and our city council members just about where our population moves to. So we appreciate it. Like we said, we know it's an extra step, but I think it will help us in our community tell the story of our population.
Yeah. And if we get enough values for a sample size, we can push back on people who are asking for required fields and say, hey, we think we have a good use of that location. So if there aren't any other questions about locations or contacts, you can see on Fireside's profile here, this is what it looks like for coordinated entry clients if they don't have contact information. So it's a nice little heads up for you. I think the last question that I know about is about sending messages within Clarity, Lynn. Was that what you were asking about, like how to do that?
Yeah, so how to send a bulk message. So how to send it to more than one person inside Clarity.
That's a good question. Let me see if there is a way to do that. Jazz, I'm not sure that you can send more than a message to one person at a time. I've never tried to do a blast. You have to specify a receiver. So
yeah, you can only send it to one person.
Yeah. I think public alerts are your blast to everybody. Like that's the way to put a message in the system that everyone will be able to see.
Great, thank you.
Of course, of course.
Okay, any other questions? Please, you can either raise your hand or unmute yourself, chat it in the chat.
I'm seeing a few questions, Kyla, about, I think Jody had one about address fields. If a client has an address field entered, like there are definitely best practices for securing that information if you're trying to make a report across like your program. And I don't know if there are canned reports that do that, but I know Looker certainly. So depending on what you're trying to get at, we can certainly work with you to help you create a report on that. And then Duncan had a comment about past data entry on last known zips.
He was just making a comment that they've used it.
Yeah,
so really
there's a ton of historical data in there. It's just unfortunately, it's all entered, like 75% of the data that we have for last permanent addresses for clients that were active in programs 2019 and on were entered before 2018. So we have close to 9,000 last permanent addresses entered. They're just all for clients. They're all dated 2018 and earlier. So, but yeah, there's tons of info in the system that you can access and pull from in Looker for sure. And then there's one about accidentally entering the wrong destination and the exit and needing to change it after. For sure, Jennifer, all you have to do is go to the exit screen and change that destination to be whatever it was supposed to be and hit save at the bottom and it updates. It's super easy to do. But if you need any help, just let us know. And again, we're happy to hop on send you a screen share or something and get it knocked out.
Any other questions? Like I said, we still have a few minutes. Is there anything else that has been kind of a pain point that you would like Matt to demonstrate or Jazz to demonstrate in the system? I guess doesn't have to be just Matt.
Yeah, I'll just do a plug for if you need help. Tickets, you know, we just canceled the regular office hours because we were holding them and people weren't showing up, but we're happy. Like, I know that a few of you, like, we schedule meetings and we talk about things that are coming up, whether it's a confusing program setup or like trying to figure out how to track services. You know, we'll work with you as much as you want to work with us for sure. So just let us know. And this HMIS version is much easier and better compared to the old one.
I do have a question, which is, I don't know, it's just probably my brain blipping. And Renee is so patient. She really helped me through this. But I was trying to update her little list. And what you have, it's like 3 or 4 places that are called One Home. So you go to the One Home tab and you go to the One Home this, but they're not really clear what, so, you know, having them written out as a One Home, we have the One Home program, then we have the One Home assessment, but you have to go to the One Home tab, but that's different than the One Home tab that's the one where this assessment was. I don't know if there's a way to differentiate those a little more clearly for those of us who are real idiots about looking at those things. And I was so lost, and she had to send me all, you know, pictures to show. I need pictures. I don't read words, I guess. But I think that it could be clarified a little bit by, like, the program One Home. When somebody's in the program of One Home, they have been entered into the program of One Home. It's a client's program of One Home. That was something that was kind of where I kept on getting lost. So maybe using a different type of a name or somehow distinguishing that from the tab down for One Home for us to get into, and the One Home assessment, VI for that, tab, One Home, just something to think about.
So that is some of the stuff that is just hard coded in the system that we can't change, like the names of the tabs. And I think you mean like we have the initial screener that's a client level assessment, but then we have the VI for that, which is within the program and is a program level assessment, and they're both called assessment. Yes, that is a confusion that happens quite often. Really, the only way we can make those distinctions is like at the top where you have the client name and then you have all those tabs in that very dark kind of gray bluish color. This is all client level data. So these are client level tabs. If you look at like our little process flow, like workflow that we made for One Home, I called the initial screener a client level assessment to try and trigger people to click on the client level assessments tab. If you go through the workflow, then we have that assessments tab that is within the program, and all of those tabs that are white are program level data. You'll see there's the program name, and then there's like all these tabs for the program. So that is program level data. So when we talk about like program level assessments, it's because it's within the program at a program level. So that's kind of the way that we've been able to make those distinctions, because I do know that they both, there's 2 assessments tabs, there's 2 notes tabs. I fully get that, but we can't change those.
It's that part too, but it's on the right side down below. I don't see it on this one, but if someone's in One Home, that's a different One Home than the One Home that's under the assessments too. That's just, and I get you probably can't change any of that, but if you ever have a chance, that might be something to consider.
There is that one pager that I made that's kind of a like a process map that to follow through, and that should really kind of help to clarify where some things are.
I don't suppose there's a way for you to have little help, and this is, I'm sure you can't do this, but if you get to the active programs, let's say we get hit an active program, you have it there, and there's like a link to your little help stuff. Is there a way to do that sort of stuff?
No, like we have, no.
That would be too good, right?
Yeah, basically. But we do have, I do have that, I can send you that kind of process map. Matt, if you'll let me share my screen.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry, I was just trying to share the different
No, you're
assessment
good.
sections.
This should just, it should kind of assist with that. Let me find it real quick. I wasn't prepared, so I don't have it open. Okay. To end the slideshow. There we go. All right, so I have this like little workflow that I kind of put together, And this is really all of the steps, right? Like not everybody's going to need it. So it's kind of like, where are you? So like if the client is in the system, like is a client in HMIS? Yes. So you're looking for their profile. Yes, they are. You need to check their ROI status, you know, give them an ROI. We then do complete an initial screener. This is a client level assessment. So client level data, like the data that's right underneath their name. And then enroll them into the client program and do the VI SPDAT. I can add here that this is a program level assessment. And that I can make some clarifications on that and then send that over to see if that would like kind of help. But that's happened. That is a very common confusion that happens.
Glad to hear I'm not the only one that gets boggled down by that sort of stuff. Thank you, Jazz.
Anything else? Okay, well, great. If anything comes up, like Matt said, feel free to reach out to the help desk. You know, we're here to support you. If it's getting on a quick screen share with you, setting up a meeting to run through some functionality. I know several of you guys are newer agencies. And, you know, we would be happy to do, you know, some kind of quick demos and run through some of the newer functionality and features to be able to get you guys fully on board and using it. So whatever you guys need, feel free to submit a ticket to the HMIS help desk. And we're here to support you. And it looks like, just as a quick follow-up, it looks like thank you guys for answering in the chat. It looks like the majority of you guys like this format and like the frequency. And I think if we get kind of updates that need to be made between the DPALs, we can always do a newsletter. So if there's any HMIS new features and functionalities that come out, we will communicate that to you guys in between the DPAL meetings. But thank you guys very much for attending. And you know, we'll stay on for a couple more minutes if anybody else has any questions. But if you don't, feel free to drop off. And I hope you guys have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.